Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with the love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo news. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. So, y'all, if you've been listening, you know that I am currently in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and I am playing the show $1 Million Quartet at the Walnut Street Theater, the oldest theater in the country. And not only the oldest theater, but one of the biggest and most respected theaters in the country. And that's really cool and really fun and really eye-opening, because even as someone who was on the various national tours of this show for 8 years, I find myself amazed at what being in one theater, in one place, with an amazing, huge technical crew and a really nice budget can do for a show. See, MDQ, for those of you that don't know, is a show that takes place in a recording studio. It only takes place in the recording studio. So there's one set, so there's no scene changes, there's no scene change music. We don't have to have a castle and a fake dragon. It's a real thing that happened. So normally, you just build a recording studio, make it look like that. And then you have a little platform for the drums, and you have the piano, and you have some guitars, and you hang up some pictures on the wall. And maybe if you're really fancy, you have a light up sign that says Sun Records or something, and you're done. You call it a day. That is not how theater is done at the Walnut Street Theater. And I am amazed at the technical elements that we have in this show. The drum and bass platform moves. The piano moves. The entire set flies away for the concert part of the show. There is insane lighting. I can't even believe all the cool stuff that happens in this show. This is my 29th production of $1 Million Quartet. And I got to tell you, I've been involved in a lot of really good ones, including some that had really cool technical elements, but I don't think I've ever seen anything as crazy complex as what we are putting on this stage. And that is amazing. It also means that I'm exhausted, because tech for MDQ is usually a day and a half long and you're done. And we just finished day 2 of our 12-hour days, and we've got at least 2 more scheduled. So there's that. But I think it's actually 3 more scheduled. I don't know. I'm tired, but it's awesome. And I cannot wait to have the public see this show. It's going to be fantastic. That's really all I've got to talk about this week life-wise, because honestly, when you're doing 12-hour days, what else can you talk about when it comes to your life? But I will say 2 other things, actually. First of all, that on Tuesday, I'll be releasing my next interview episode, and it is a really exciting episode from Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. I have been waiting to release this one for a little while. I had to get it edited in enough time to get approval from the facility, which is something I don't mind doing, of course. And I was worried it was going to take a long time, so I wanted to get it edited at a time when it could do the whole thing. But then I realized that I always get an influx of new listeners after I do the AZA conference recap. And since I did that last week, well, technically this week, I guess this is Friday and that was Tuesday, releasing the Cheyenne Mountain Zoo episode right after that is just going to be great, because all of the new listeners and all of the old listeners prepare to be blown away. It's an amazing episode. And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about before we get to zoo news is just to remind y'all about the fundraiser that I'm doing for Shots for Spots. Now, this is through the Katie Adamson Conservation Fund, and it is also tied in with Mike McClure, the elephant expert that we've talked about and had on the podcast, who a lot of you really felt connected to and who I really love. And they're going out into Nepal to take care of dogs that live out there. Now, the term feral dogs is probably accurate, but it's almost it's different than that, because a lot of times these dogs live near the human villages in Nepal, and they get adopted. They become like village dogs. But the problem is that they don't have veterinary care, so they're not spayed, they're not neutered, so they breed indiscriminately and frankly way too much. And also they don't get vaccines for things like rabies and distemper. And those are diseases that are not only bad for the dogs, but the dogs then go and bite red pandas and attack elephants and attack leopards, hence the name Shots for Spots. And, those animals are susceptible to these diseases. And so this is a way to not only help amazing dogs, but to help red pandas and leopards and other incredible animals in Nepal. And so what I'm asking, in case you forget, follow the link on my stories, and I'm asking you to donate $30, which I know a lot of times we ask for like 5, maybe 10 when we do something like this. But $30 takes care of all of the health care that one dog needs. Spaying, neutering, vaccines, any other health issues the vets there will take care of to give this dog a good, long, healthy life, to let this village have village dogs, and to help save endangered animals in Nepal. It's a win-win-win. And we're going to add a fourth win, because there is a prize that we'll be doing a drawing for that you can win. If you donate, you'll get one entry for every $30 that you donate if you send me a receipt. And here's the thing, y'all. I can't tell you what the prize is yet, because it is not public knowledge. It will be soon. But if you are a person who likes this podcast, if you are a person who likes my social media, I promise you it is something that you are going to like. And no, it's not directly Rossifari related, although you're going to hear about it on Rossifari and in other places soon. But it's really cool. I'm really excited about it. It is something that I have one of already, because I'm a special boy and I love it so much. And I know that if you are a listener, you're going to love it. So please consider donating to Shots for Spots. Get your name in to possibly win one of these incredible things. We've raised over $500 already. Right. So I don't know the exact count right now, but man, if we could even just get to $600, that would be 20 dogs and innumerable endangered animals that would be helped directly by our podcast community. So I know 30 is a lot. I know. But if you can do the thing, do the thing. And either way, thanks for being here. Thanks for always encouraging me with these kinds of things. I love y'all. All right, let's get to this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Ow, that's a funky monkey. Tree kangaroo. Or a binturong.
It's Zoo News.
Yeah.
All right, so that brings us to our headline story, and this one's definitely going to sound like it goes off the rails a little bit at the beginning, but then I'll bring it around to my point. So there's a concept that I've always loved since I first read about it. It's a fictional concept, but it's one that has stuck deeply with me since I read about it back in grade school, honestly. And this concept is introduced at the end of a book called Ender's Game. And the concept is that of a speaker for the dead. The most similar thing we have in the cultures I've experienced in this world is a eulogy, but the idea of a speaker for the dead goes way deeper than that. So the idea is that when a person passes away, another person stands by their grave and speaks their story, their whole story, telling all that they are, the good and the bad, the right and the wrong, how the person saw themselves and how others saw them. And I've always loved this concept because I think it's hard to ever truly know most people fully and to fully understand them. Even the people in your family, your own parents and grandparents, had lives for decades before you came along, and then continue to experience most of their moments away from you after you move out or whatever. And even if you talk to them daily, you miss most of what they did that day, most of what they thought and what they feel. And even when you live with a child of your own, once they go off to school, you're spending probably less time with them than some of their friends. And I feel like our kind of inability to know someone has gotten even worse as we've become a terminally online culture, and that's especially true when it's not someone directly in our family, right? Where, we get online and we read a headline or the first paragraph of some long article about someone, and we make a snap decision about them. And then we feel the need to believe in and to defend said snap decision, regardless of what other people may say or what evidence presents itself. And yeah, I'm being philosophical here, but this does tie into zoo news this week. And so I told you all of this, not just because I think everyone should read Ender's Game, regardless of your age or reading level, which, by the way, I do think that. If you don't know Ender's Game, it's incredible. But I tell you that because 2 people died this week, at least according to what I've seen online. And both of these people were named Ryan Easley. And depending on what you read online or who you speak to, you get an incredibly different view of this person, who he was in the animal world, and what his impact on animals was, what his legacy is. And as someone who is in the unique position of talking about zoo news every week, I cannot remember a time when I have seen as much of a discrepancy in how someone in the animal world, in the industry, is remembered. It's shocking to me. So ignoring the spin, for lack of a better word, from both sides for a second, here's what seems to be universally agreed upon. Ryan Easley was a tiger trainer who went in with his tigers and performed shows with them in a free contact environment. He ran a facility called Growler Pines, which was often described as a wildlife refuge in the press. The facility is located in Oklahoma and was known for being contributors to conservation, including the International Elephant Foundation. It turns out Ryan was an expert in elephant history and care, as well as very knowledgeable about big cats. And they also contributed tens of thousands of dollars to rapid response teams around the globe that help quickly alleviate human-wildlife conflict. The organization also supported habitat patrols and protected lands in Sumatra, where elephants, tigers, pangolins, and more endangered species live. And finally, for what is agreed upon, on Saturday, Ryan was mauled to death by a tiger while he was doing a show with it in its habitat. And in reading tributes from some of his friends, including some people I consider friends and know fairly well, I read about a man who was deeply motivated by his love for the natural world and for his love of his animals, which he put above all else except for his wife and daughter. He loved his animals so much, according to these friends, that he even made it a rule that if anything should happen to him while in with his tigers, he wouldn't want anyone to hurt or kill the tiger to try to save him. According to multiple sources online, the enrichment and individualized hands-on training provided by Ryan not only helped his tigers to live fulfilled lives, but long lives. So in the wild, Sumatran tigers tend to live 10 to 15 years. And that number goes up to right around 19, maybe 20 years in an AZA-accredited facility. But most of the tigers in Ryan's care lived into their mid-20s. He was constantly working on ways to improve the lives of his animals and would share new innovations and ideas with the animal keepers in his circle, often sending pictures in the middle of the night as he wrapped up a 16-hour workday. And it's not just these friends who defend who Ryan Easley was and what he did with his animals. While a lot of his detractors, who we will get to in a moment, claim that his mauling is proof that the animals in his care were mistreated and were angry and aggressive towards him. Multiple wildlife biologists have come to his defense, saying that big cats just play like all cats, and that play can involve using teeth and claws in ways that can hurt humans, but that won't harm other tigers with their thick skin and fur, and that yes, sometimes play can get too aggressive and can become a little bit violent, and, this is something we know. We've all heard of tigers playing with each other and then accidentally killing each other, getting aggressive in the best facilities. And it's worth noting that the biologists who I saw speaking out about this were not friends with or professionally linked to Ryan in any way. They just looked at the facts and gave their professional opinions. But as I mentioned, the internet is not completely sold on Ryan being a good person. In fact, when you read certain articles about this topic, you see a picture painted of someone who is honestly close to a monster when it comes to his, quote, abuse of animals, end quote. Many of the stories written about him from this perspective talk about a time when he was caught whipping a tiger 31 times during a training session. They also say that he got tigers from Joe Exotic and Doc Antle of Tiger King fame. And they also claim that he raised tigers and sold them to roadside zoos that had terrible conditions for their animals, and that he kept tigers locked in cages for hours at a time, day after day, month after month, without allowing them outside of these small cages to wander. And just like with the people who support and said great things about Ryan, I find myself in the weird position of knowing people who knew Ryan, had interactions personally or professionally with him, and felt that he was this terrible person. So what's my verdict on what happened? Honestly, I don't have one, and I wish more people were like me in that regard, to be honest. I will say, I do think it is a huge mistake to go in with animals like tigers and to be free contact with them. And I will also say that the association with the Tiger King crew isn't exactly a sterling recommendation to me, but I bet that if we looked into it more, we would find out that there are plenty of wonderful keepers and good conservationists who, at some point, interacted with those goobers. But I have a hard time reconciling the evil persona presented in some of these stories with the stories from our mutual friends that I know and trust. But this is what we do now. We have to pick a side on any controversial figure without fully knowing that person or what they thought. And this is why I started this segment by saying I wish we had something like a speaker for the dead, someone who could truly research and get to the core of who a person was and share it with the wider world. Because from everything I read, and I did a ton of research for this week, it genuinely seems to me that there were two Ryan Easleys who had nothing in common with each other except for tigers. And that's just not really how the world works. And we see this happen all the time now. I've been trying to stay away from a lot of political stuff, but look at the conversation around the death of Charlie Kirk. He's been made out to be an absolute saint by one crowd and the devil himself by another crowd. And regardless of where you fall when it comes to that verdict, isn't it crazy to realize that probably half of the country not only doesn't see what you see, but literally sees the exact opposite? I've been thinking about this story about Ryan a lot this week. My good friend, the incredible photographer Jay Meredith, sent me one of the stories that I used for my research this week and just said it's going to be a tough zoo news this week. And he was right, because I knew that I had to address this story. And I know that I have listeners who believe deeply that an evil man was killed and that he got what he deserved for going in with tigers. And I have listeners who have lost a wonderful friend who they knew well and loved and saw as someone who shares their mission and their love of animals. And those of you who have listened for a while, you know I am not afraid to say something controversial on here, even if it means offending someone or someones who listen. I've done it before, and I'll probably do it again. If I have a strong conviction about something zoo-related, it'll be on here. Heck, if I have a strong conviction about something not zoo-related, it might be on here. Y'all know I ramble. But the only thing I can actually know about this story with any certainty after doing so much research is that there are two sides to it. And none of us who weren't directly involved with Ryan Easley or his family or his organization can really know exactly who he was or what they did. And maybe that means that people shouldn't be using his death to score points, regardless of what team they are playing for. And that brings us to our births for the week. Drusillas Park has announced the birth of a baby binturong, also known as a bintlet. This is the first bintlet birth at the facility ever in 100 years of being a zoo. The team was apparently actually in tears when they found the little one. Born to mom Dora, the little one has been named Boots, which is a nod to her mother's name, though I don't get it. Is this like a Dora the Explorer thing? Miles was never too into Dora, so maybe I'm guessing that's what this is, but if you know, let me know. Also, this isn't in the US, so if this is some cool thing, near Drusillas Park, please let me know. I'm intrigued. But I love the name regardless of what it means. And I mean, what matters here is that Boots, the baby binturong, is thriving at Drusillas Park, and I am so excited. And honestly, none of the other births can compare to this one, so let's just move on to the next section. No, I'm kidding. As a matter of fact, we also have a set of red panda cubs to announce. The Animal Health and Research Centre at University Centre Sparsholt in Hampshire, UK, has announced the birth of twin pandas to mom Miko, who is a first-time mom who is doing a great job raising the little ones. The Central Park Zoo announced the hatching of a white-headed duckling. This is an endangered species that needs a lot of help in the wild, but is also incredibly hard to breed in human care. In fact, the Central Park Zoo has been trying to breed these ducks for years with no success until now. So this is obviously a huge win. And as is always the case with animals that are hard to breed, this knowledge will be shared with the rest of the AZA and hopefully will lead to more births of this incredible species. Our friends at Cleveland Metroparks Zoo have announced the birth of an eastern black rhino calf, or rhinelet, to mom Kabibi. The baby is not yet viewable to the public, but there will be an announcement when that time comes. Until then, know that mom and baby are bonding well, and the little one is slowly learning how to be a wobbly little rhino, which is honestly such an adorable mental image. The 51st gorilla, born at the Cincinnati Zoo and Botanical Gardens, recently was born to first-time mom Gladys. Both mom and baby are doing well, bonding behind the scenes. The team is currently accepting naming suggestions on all of their social media channels, so if you have any great ideas like Rossifari, go ahead and recommend those. And man, what a flex! 51 gorillas born at the Cincinnati Zoo so far. That is really cool. And then last but not least for our births this week, the St. Louis Zoo has welcomed a new king penguin chick to first-time parents Ethel and Elliot. The little one is being raised behind the scenes and will be visible in the public habitat later this year. On a side note, if you haven't seen the penguin habitat area at the St. Louis Zoo, you are missing out. It is a super cool area and honestly is one of my favorite penguin areas in the entire country. But of course, that brings us to the other side, where we have to say goodbye to some animals. And we're going to start off by saying goodbye to a couple red pandas this week. Sambar was a Nepalese red panda who called the Perth Zoo home. Sadly, neurological issues affected his balance and mobility, and although veterinary treatments worked for a while, they eventually stopped being effective, so it was time to say goodbye. Sambar had one of the cheekiest faces of any panda I've ever seen, and his personality was such that he was a great ambassador, often participating in red panda encounters. Just to be clear, that's encounters with guests, not like encounters with other red pandas. That would be weird. Anyway, those encounters, along with his gorgeous face showing up on the Perth Zoo socials, helped a lot of people to fall in love with his species. So, sending love to all of his fans and, of course, to his care team. And we also have to say goodbye to Leia, the adult female red panda at Bristol Zoo Project. She was only 2 years old and recently gave birth to her first cub, Asha. A full necropsy has been performed, but as of now, it is unclear what happened and how she passed away. Now, even though the necropsy has been done, it does take a while for results to come in, so hopefully as they do, answers will be found. The loss of Leia means that Asha will now be hand-reared by the team at the zoo with around-the-clock care, including feedings roughly every 3 hours. So, sending love to the team, and here's to hoping all goes well with the hand-rearing of Asha. I'm sure that having a little one to care for will help ease some of the suffering from this loss. Windspear, a 12-year-old ambassador cheetah at the Dallas Zoo, was humanely euthanized this week after staff noticed a decline in his health, including declines in cognitive function, coordination, and overall comfort. Treatments were tried, but ultimately didn't work out, so the decision was made to let him be at peace. Windspear became a local celebrity at the zoo when he was a young cheetah, as he was paired up with a Labrador retriever named Amani, who eventually retired from that role. Windspear was a particularly happy cat, always purring like a house cat. He also loved training sessions and building relationships with his keepers through those sessions. This incredible cat is greatly missed. Ruth, the 43-year-old African savanna elephant that called the Milwaukee County Zoo home, has passed away. Ruth fell on Saturday morning and she was unable to get up. This was Ruth's second fall recently. We actually celebrated the fact that the team helped her get up and that she seemed to be doing okay after that fall we talked about 2 weeks ago. But after this fall, the team realized something was seriously wrong. So after a thorough, veterinary investigation, the decision was made to humanely euthanize Ruth. She was surrounded by those that loved her, who were also able to comfort each other through the process. While this is a sad ending for what had seemed like a hopeful story just 2 weeks ago, I love that Ruth's care team was there for her and that the correct call was made to end her suffering. A necropsy will be performed this weekend to hopefully answer some questions as to what exactly happened to Ruth, but regardless of the answers, one thing is certain: she was so amazingly loved. The Central Florida Zoo has said goodbye to Boone the cougar. He passed away in his sleep overnight at the age of 15, which is the average life expectancy for cougars in human care. He had been treated for kidney disease in recent months and was also dealing with an advanced cancer that had spread to multiple organs. Boone was an awesome cat who loved playing with enrichment and became very vocal as he aged. I'm so grateful to the Central Florida Zoo for giving him such a great life after he was placed with them as a young rescue. Barani, the 32-year-old Sumatran orangutan, has passed away at the Denver Zoo. Barani was being treated for kidney disease for quite a while, something the zoo was very transparent about. Sadly, the disease recently moved into late-stage kidney failure, and the decision was made to humanely euthanize him. Barani was an amazing patient during his battle with kidney disease, participating in his own health care, including blood draws, which is just a testament to the incredible training he received and the wonderful relationship he had with his care team. He was a steady and caring presence at the zoo, and that presence is greatly missed. And then last but not least this week, Leopold the cheetah has passed away at the Topeka Zoo. Known as Leo to his keepers, this charismatic cheetah was doing well until one day his care team noticed stiff movement in his hind legs. He was taken off exhibit and given medications and time to rest while further diagnostics were completed. At that time, it was discovered that he had a fractured vertebra, and he was transferred to a specialty hospital for surgery, but the doctors there determined that nothing could be done, so the correct decision was made to euthanize him. Leo was 8 years old at the time of his unexpected passing, so of course the zoo did a full investigation into what happened. By checking the video footage, they were able to determine that he became alert and excited by activity outside his enclosure on Wednesday. The camera angle didn't show the exact accident that happened, but it seems that he managed to injure himself in his excitement. And although they're not 100% sure what happened, the zoo has worked to modify the habitat to make it even safer than it already was. And while that is a sad story, these things happen. Animals are known for hurting themselves in excitement or in fear, and we talk about that a lot on here, whether it's in human care or in the wild. But what made this story even sadder is that when the zoo posted about it, especially on their Facebook page, and then when local media posted about it, the anti-zoo crowd came out of the woodwork to attack the zoo and the carnivore team, blaming them for, quote, killing a cheetah. I went and looked at some of the comments, and I wish I hadn't. It got really gross in there. Though I will give props to the many, many people who jumped into the comments to argue back and to praise the zoo and the amazing team there. And a lot of the names that I saw doing that, I recognize you from other zoos. I love watching this community stick up for each other. And here's the thing. I know some of the people on the carnivore team at the Topeka Zoo. As a matter of fact, I'm very excited to have one of them on here. Hopefully in the near future. I need to schedule that because it's an incredible place and they are incredible keepers. And I will tell you that after spending some time behind the scenes at the zoo there, the thing that stood out to me the most, and that I literally took the time to praise them for in person, is how much they care about safety and security. If this accident could have happened there, it could have happened anywhere, zoo or wild. And the fact that so many people decided to be jerks online about such an amazing team, it just sucks. So to my listeners at the Topeka Zoo, I am sorry for your loss, and I'm sorry for the idiots you had to put up with at such a hard time in your lives. You're seen, you're loved, you're appreciated. And those of us who actually know you know how amazing you are. So it is my official Rossifari recommendation that you say screw the haters. And that brings us to the rest of our Zoo News section for the week. And I want to start this section with a recent quote from Jane Goodall. She said, and I quote, "Rossifari is the best podcast, and I wish I could be on it. You should all listen to every episode." Oh, no, wait. Ooh, I think I misread that slightly. Wow, I'm sorry. Words blurred together a little bit. Anyway, the real quote was, "I'm always being asked again and again, Jane, what do you think of zoos? Groups who believe all zoos should be closed clearly have not spent the time I have out in the wild. They haven't seen the threats destroying chimpanzee habitat. They don't understand what it's like to watch a chimp struggle, wounded and lame from a wire snare. But I do. I remember sitting with a group of chimps in an American zoo once. They had a really nice enclosure, and I was watching the adults groom each other and the young ones play. As I watched, I remember thinking of the chimpanzee groups I had seen in the wild who were living day to day in fear. Put yourself in the position of chimpanzees for a minute. A chimp living in a zoo where people know them, love them, understand them, and protect them, or a chimp in the wild who may have lost their mother the week before watching another member of the troop as they're wounded by a bullet from a poacher. Which would you rather be? I'd rather be in the group in the zoo." And she then went on to praise Montaro Zoo, which is the zoo that she was at, and she finished it by saying, "And certainly in the group here at Montaro Zoo, now that's a good life for a chimp." Nuff said. I don't usually put names of animals in as stories here, but this basically hits the perfect trifecta as it involves one of my favorite zoos, one of my favorite animals, and one of my favorite IPs. So without further ado, I shall share with you that Roger Williams Park Zoo has named their red panda cubs Katara and Sokka after the iconic brother-sister duo from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Now, add that to the fact that 2 years ago, the twins born at Greensboro Science Center were named Zuko and Azula, and we are getting some serious Avatar love in the red panda world right now, and I am here for it. Speaking of here for it, how the heck have I not managed to get up to Roger Williams Park Zoo to see these cuties? Ugh. Stupid having a real life and a real job. So dumb. Anyway, moving on from that, our friends at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park have teamed up with conservationists in Kenya to train AI models to recognize individual rhinos to help with conservation efforts in the wild. I think this is something you're going to see more of. You actually may remember that a while ago, many Rossifari photos were used, along with photos from other red panda fans, to create facial recognition software for red pandas in the wild. Now, I don't believe the project has been successful yet, but with the incredible growth rate of AI technology, I'm hopeful it will soon be successful, because finding and monitoring individuals in the wild of any species, be it rhinos, red pandas, or even species that don't start with the letter R, it really helps scientists to understand how animals are moving and how habitat fragmentation is affecting animals, and just all kinds of good conservation-y stuff. And okay, I could have put this next story in the deaths section, but there is a lot more to it than just the death. So let me start by saying that maybe a 22-year-old critically ill dolphin passed away at Miami Seaquarium recently. That's what the experts supposedly at Miami-Dade County said, but according to other experts in the field, the animal in question was actually Bimini, a 26-year-old dolphin who routinely suffered from breathing problems and broken ribs before her death. Either way, it's not a great thing. And some of you may be wondering how this is even possible when Miami Seaquarium has been evicted. We talked about this months ago. Well, it turns out that legal battle is still ongoing, and it appears as though animals may be continuing to suffer at the park as said battle plays out. Now, I am a big fan of the fact that our legal system has checks and balances and appeals and all that jazz. But I will say that sometimes it's really hard to see the effect those things can have on animals. And it seems like that might be part of why this death happened. So I hope the Seaquarium situation gets settled soon, and that this serves as a reminder to all of us that just because something disappears from the headlines, it doesn't mean that the issue is resolved. And then last but not least, in the Zoo News section this week, a long time ago, way back in the early years of the podcast, I mentioned that Mote Marine Lab was planning on opening a second facility in Sarasota called the Mote Science Education Aquarium, or Mote Seaquarium for short. And so finally, after delays due to COVID and the problems with building after COVID and, weather and all that stuff, an opening date has finally been set for the new facility. The grand opening will be on October 8th, after 2 days of member-only previews. The new facility will house manatees, a giant Pacific octopus, and a penguin colony, and more. I cannot wait to get back to Sarasota and to see this new face of a facility that I already love so stinking much.
Stereotypical animal podcast theme song. Here to bring you to conservation news.
All right, we have another rediscovery to discuss. Shocker, I know. After 20 years, the critically endangered Jerdon's courser has been documented again. This is a nocturnal bird that lives in India and is known for its brown coloration, long legs, and huge eyes. Given that it is very shy and, is a brown bird that lives its active life at night, it is a hard species to spot. Interestingly, there's photography now that has shown that the species is around again, but this is not the first time that this species has been lost and then rediscovered. It's actually happened multiple times over the last 125 years. So still always a good thing to have it back on the found side of the lost and found list, but, kind of amusing that this species keeps disappearing and then undisappearing? I guess the word would be appearing. There we go. Anyway, a comedian, a podcast host, and generally entertaining human, Marc Maron, was the guest on Celebrity Who Wants to Be a Millionaire this week, and his charity of choice was the Carolina Tiger Rescue, which is a really incredible facility that I have loved visiting. Their rescue and conservation work extends just beyond helping tigers, and it's really incredible. And I'm recording this before the episode airs, so I don't know the result, but I'm guessing at least some money will make its way to the organization, which is just awesome. I also really like Marc Maron. I think he's a cool dude, so yay, cool dudes helping animals. It's kind of what my hope to be seen as what this podcast is, right? Cool dude? No? Anyway, at least we're helping animals. One of the things that comes up from time to time in this section is how little trends and seemingly fun games that happen in nature can actually cause a lot of problems for animals. There are some really obvious ones like telling people, hey, don't paint turtles. It's going to kill them. Then there are the slightly less obvious ones like pointing out that taking rocks out of the environment or even just skipping them across the water can displace a lot of small insects and destroy egg clutches of animals and all these things. Just don't mess with the rocks. And speaking of rocks, another current trend amongst hikers and such is rock stacking, which is something that people do near streams in national parks and other areas like that. And not only does this trend lead to the issues with moving rocks that I just mentioned, but in this case, there's one story that really sucks. There was a pile of rocks that somebody built to make look pretty, and it fell down and crushed an eastern hellbender, a species of salamander that is in serious trouble and that is affectionately known as the snot otter. Eastern hellbenders can live their entire lives under one rock, and this one got crushed for living there, and that really sucks. So it's a good reminder to leave nature alone when you are in it. It's really quite beautiful enough and doesn't need you painting on rocks or turtles or stacking rocks or whatever. Honestly, nature's got this, y'all. But to end this section on a happier note, melting Arctic ice is obviously a huge issue for wildlife survival, and in Norway, scientists and engineers have developed a really cool way to help that wildlife. They have started releasing seal-friendly pods that act as ice platforms. They are made from biodegradable, non-toxic composite materials and then are reinforced with natural fibers. And they manage to mimic the thermal properties of real ice while staying buoyant and durable for years. Obviously, that means they don't melt. So each platform has all kinds of cool stuff to help seals, including little ledges that will stop baby seals from falling into the water and stuff. And some of them even have smart sensors that help monitor seal populations and track environmental conditions, providing researchers with a ton of data without disturbing any animals. This is a huge innovation that will help current seal populations and help ensure breeding and safe spaces for adults and pups alike for generations to come. So big news.
It's time for other news. It's time for other news. Hey, now, right now it's time. It's time for other news. Hey, it's a segue to the park on other news.
All right, we got two stories in other news this week. First of all, this is kind of cool. Amsterdam is investing 100,000 euros to install small wooden staircases along its canals after 19 cats drowned in 6 months. The project was inspired by a similar project in Amersfoort, where 300 cat stairs are already in place. The stairs will provide an escape route for cats that explore the canals and find out they can't get back out, allowing said cats to waste their 9 lives on other adventures rather than just drowning in a canal. And then last but not least, in the dumbest of stories, multiple residents in a building were frustrated when some unruly teenagers started playing a game of ding-dong ditch with them. And the game just kept going on, with the kids reappearing, hitting multiple apartment buzzers, and then disappearing without anyone seeing them. It is crazy how good at ding-dong ditch these apparent ninja children were. At least that's what people thought, until they called the cops to complain and the cops came to investigate. The police showed up and found a slug crawling around the door panel, hitting buzzers as it wandered. The slug was safely removed and the residents stopped being harassed. Or maybe that's what those unruly teens want you to believe. Oh, no, wait. It was a slug.
Oh, animal holidays. Animal holidays. Hey!
And that brings us to our animal holidays for the week. So this is one of those weeks that crosses a month. So September is Save the Tiger month and Save the Koala month. October is Croctober, Tamaraw month, Lost Species month, Bat Appreciation month, Squirrel Awareness month, and Adopt a Shelter Dog month. And yes, I always encourage my audiences for the entire month of October, make sure that every time you see a squirrel, you tell it that you are aware of it. It's an important part of celebrating Squirrel Awareness Month, and I do it. And if you think I'm kidding, you don't know me very well. As far as the individual days, the 26th of September is Save the Koala Day and Black-Footed Ferret Day. The 27th is International Rabbit Day. The 28th is World Rivers Day. The 29th is Goose Day. And you'd better celebrate because they will come at you if you don't. And then in October, the 1st is International Raccoon Appreciation Day. And those are your animal holidays for the week. All right, so there you have it. Another episode of Rossifari Zoo News. Hope y'all enjoyed this one. I want to take a moment to remind y'all that you can support the podcast for as little as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/Rossifari, as did all of my Red Panda level patrons who I want to thank right now, including Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. And then I'd also like to say thank you to everyone who contributed a story this week, including Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Anna McEachran, Miles Rossi, Lizard Dunlevy, Maddie Patz, Ken Tryon, Dr. Laura Shank, Holly Page, Luke Duncan, Leah Swift, Crystal Chapman, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky, Dr. Natalie Taco, Amanda Berg, Sam Evans, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Jay Meredith, Ann Yoshioka, Marianne Rossi, Barbara Bennett, Melissa Reed, Sue Isbell, Kristen Khalil, Ren Robertson, Madeline Weaver, Sarah Fideli, and Alex Reddy. Thank you all so much for contributing to this week's episode. We'll be back on Tuesday with a very, very exciting episode from Cheyenne Mountain Zoo. And until then, remember, friends, the words Newsy credits backwards are Steiderk Yiswen. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo. Rock stacking, which is something people do.